So guys, we're here for another video. I managed to catch Fernanda Lima here during our activity. We're having an activity here at our headquarters at Dakila Pesquisas, right? And taking advantage of, let's say, a break between all the different tasks, I managed to drag Fernanda over here just to make a comment, right? About that video that's here on my channel with the testimony from Junior, from Rio de Janeiro, Architect Junior, Jose Chavez Jr., who picked up that little ball, right, the golden one, right? Golden? No, it was purple, right?
Well, they returned purple, but it was golden, yes.
It was golden after he took it from Bill's hand. If you haven't watched that story, just click here, watch the video. So I brought Fernanda. I made a point of bringing Fernanda. Why? Because she was the one filming and is one of the camera women here. As I always tell you, all our interactions, our conversations, our chats, everything is filmed, recorded, right? And Fernanda is one of the people who records, right? And she was there that day, right? 2012, right?
2012, it's been a while, huh?
It's been quite a while, almost more than 10 years already, right? So to give you some behind the scenes, make some comments, right? Because she has a lot of experience filming the beings, the different partners, several partners, right?
Yes.
So let's go, Fernanda. First of all, show everyone how you film, right?
Yeah, well, it's actually pretty simple. Nowadays, of course, Felipe, the equipment is much more compact. Back then, actually, I remembered I had an infrared spotlight, right, that one of our dear associates here even made. He made it.
Yes.
That spotlight, Junite, exactly, Junite from Sao Paulo. He made that, and I used to walk around. I had to carry a backpack, a little battery. It was a battery in that spotlight, right? There were 6 bulbs. So it was, look, I was.
6 infrared bulbs, right?
Infrared, which boosted, you know, the camera. It was a camera, at the time, very similar to this one here, a handy cam. It already needs to have the feature right to film, yeah, with infrared, otherwise we can't boost it. These extra bulbs are used to increase the range.
Exactly.
Because not always, actually, like that day with Junior, we always have to stay a few meters behind, right, because the main interaction there is with him. I stay to record, so I need to keep some distance, but with that distance, obviously the camera alone wouldn't capture it. So we use the tools we have today, right? For example, these bulbs, they're much more compact. But they also help increase the range a lot. There are flashlights. This one here is still a pretty big flashlight, but there are much smaller ones now.
It's an infrared flashlight. Guys, just to clarify, it's not a regular flashlight with normal light.
Exactly, all infrared. Each company, you know, gives it a name, right? Even here in the video, I remembered later, I say, oh, I'm going to turn off the night shot, because some call it night shot, others have different names. But the feature they usually mention, the brand, right? The camera we use is called night shot. So that's it. It's relatively simple, right? There's not much to it, but it reveals some incredible things to us, doesn't it? So, yeah, it was a camera pretty similar to this one here that I was using at the time as well.
If you also remember that situation where Fernanda has to stand a bit further back when filming, you can hear Bilu saying that. Fernanda, Bilu, can I come closer by a few steps? It's all very, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Pode chegar mais?
Tá ali, Fernanda.
Tá, vendo.
Tá vendo a parte branca?
Eu posso ligar mais um canhão?
Não vai queimar o Bilu remédio?
Não, não vai não.
Muito bem, pode ligar. Liga o outro.
Tô com todos ligados.
Está enxergando o Bilu?
Tô.
Fernanda também?
Tô, tá bem. Você podia ficar mais nítido pra câmera, hein, Bilu?
Tá bom.
Well, it's a calculation, right? Yeah, when we go in there, it's really a whole situation. It's a technology they have. So they know, just imagine, right? We're just points. We also have our own electromagnetic field.
Yes.
So everything is very carefully calculated so that the main person has the interaction they need to have. But we can also record it without that interference. All the training we have here is exactly for that. So we can reach a frequency that allows us to participate together. Because it ends up being, a record, a witness.
Yes.
Yeah, of everything. It adds, some things there in the moment too. Because it's interesting, right, Felipe? You've been through that too. Felipe has also filmed, several times. And we know, sometimes the person who is there in the main interaction, sometimes they get a little nervous. They kind of don't know what to do, because it stirs things up. Right, it stirs up emotions, absolutely. So, sometimes we can give that support too, right? Remind them of something. Hey, he said this to you, Ask about such and such, We do this as little as possible, just the bare minimum, so we don't interfere too much, but also to give some support.
Yeah, that's really important, because not just during filming, but also during audio recordings. Right, there are dozens of people who do their recordings. Because it's important, right, in the moment, Even today, after so many years, we still get really, impressed, kind of moved, kind of stunned sometimes, don't we? And it's good for us to review the recordings, because sometimes it sticks with you, doesn't it? An important word or phrase that the beings are saying can go unnoticed, passing on important information that we need. Sometimes, for example, I not only listen to the audios or even watch the videos several times, but I also transcribe them for myself, precisely to help me absorb and understand, Yeah, this part is really important.
But really, right, this whole thing about the sound frequency they use is actually pretty interesting, isn't it? Just reading what they said doesn't have the same effect as listening to it. Right? So much so that a lot of people sometimes ask, oh, but aren't we going to have access to the audio and all that? There are some audios that we really can share. There are those sound vibrations, right?
The intonations.
Which are meant for certain people, and not everyone can listen to them, because they really do have an effect, It causes a whole change there. It really stirs things up. The fact that it's in the dark, right? I always think it's interesting to mention, because when you're in the dark, you're much more susceptible, much more alert. So, because of that, you also pick up on the details, right? Yeah, an interesting detail is that usually when we arrive, sometimes there are some noises. It's a really strong soundscape. That puts you in a state of alertness. Right? And when you're in the dark, already in a state of alertness, your pupils dilate. With that, you also start to see better in the dark. So it's all, yeah, there's a whole preparation for us to really see.
It's all a kind of training, right? Including that programming we get since we're kids, right? To be afraid of the dark, to, not stay in the dark. It's actually in the dark that our eyes, our rods, adapt so we can see different light frequencies. Remember that the spectrum, right? That we can, the light we see is really short. It's very limited. So sure, the camera helps us, but this nighttime training really improves that. I remember when I got here, 26 years ago, I used to walk around with 10 flashlights, terrified, couldn't see a thing. These days, I hardly ever use a flashlight. My night vision has improved dramatically. It's part of the training, the light baths we receive from the beings to improve our visual system and also activate the rods, right? That's really important, right?
Exactly. And with the camera, we have this, it's, a bit of a challenge, I'd say, a more intense kind of training. Because when you're there, you have to look at the screen and also pay attention to what's happening around you. The screen gives off light, right? So, you're already used to the dark, but when you open the screen and you need to see what's being filmed. So this transition from light to dark in your vision has to happen much faster, because otherwise you risk missing some things. And sometimes, right, we might, exactly, they've always said that. We need to compare what's coming out on the camera with what you're seeing with the naked eye. And we keep making that comparison. Sometimes you can see it with the naked eye, sometimes you can't. It's only the camera that picks it up. But this transition in our vision is also really important, right? So you can quickly train your eyes to see what's happening live.
Actually, I just remembered a recording you were doing of Bilu. Bilu was sitting down and he said, he said something to you and then he changed his brightness. And then you were like, oh my God!
Yeah, I did.
You see, can you see it on camera? I'll play the footage so you all can see.
Ah, tá.
O objetivo não foca assim a luz física de vocês, então não vai transformar a luz nossa. Vibracional, a luz física.
Ah, vi. Tô te vendo.
And that was really cool of you to remember, because here's the thing, it was the first time, the first image capture that I have of him, and it was during the training, right? Everyone, all of us, we could see it with the naked eye, but the camera wasn't picking up anything.
But look,
And then he turns, right? He turned and said, I'm going to help the camera. And then he goes and does it, right? He has this frequency shift, the camera starts picking it up, and the people who were there said, but now we can't see you anymore, right? Only the camera, right, could capture it. And then he turns and says, that's when he talked about training the rods, about peripheral vision, that we had to practice to be able to see, to push that limit a bit, you know, the one we usually have with our vision.
I had an experience like that too, where I was right in front. Bilu was about a meter away from me, and I was filming him with a camera just like Nanda's, with the same device she uses. I have one too. I was filming him and I was looking with my naked eye. When I took my eyes off the viewfinder and looked at him, he was dressed in a way that was, honestly, fantastic. A garment that radiated light, really bright, really beautiful. He looked like he was wearing a cap. It's an outfit. I always say it's the Levite's clothing that he was wearing. Very similar. It looked like shiny linen, really beautiful. He started arguing with me. Felipe, don't look at me. Look at the camera's viewfinder. So I looked at the viewfinder, the camera's viewfinder, and it was all pixelated. But Bilu, look at the camera. Then I looked again, and the whole image was pixelated. He was encoding the image and wanted me to watch this encoding. I'm even going to put it here for you all to see.
Conseguiu pegar Bilu na tela?
Bilu, eu tô vendo você na tela, eu tô vendo muito mal. Eu tô vendo você no meu olho.
Não, vejo na tela.
This is unprecedented, folks. This is really interesting. Now I want to know this. What behind-the-scenes details can you share from that day with Junior?
Yeah, it was really interesting because exactly there had already been some time since the training. It was something like it wasn't expected, you know, and
It wasn't planned.
it wasn't planned. So when Bilu specifically called Junior, he asked him to begin coming much closer. There was a substantial fence, right, a formidable barrier that he absolutely had to jump over and then start moving forward. And he also called me to accompany them too, instructing me quite clearly that I had to remain a few steps back from their position. Yeah, it was really quite interesting because what precisely happened there with him, well, it also happened in another significant experience that Larissa Kaltzman had, which later on, well, I already know I'm going to spoil it for you. You are definitely going to interview Larissa Kaltzman here very soon.
I will. She's going to tell that story. Her encounter. It was spectacular.
Exactly. It's really quite interesting because at that precise moment, I could clearly see everything, but they unfortunately could not because they absolutely had to, carefully go in without using any kind of flashlight whatsoever, so their eyes could gradually start to fully adjust to the dim light. So he, started walking around kind of blindly while I could see everything. I had the privilege of seeing because of the camera, right, the infrared feature.
Do you guys remember? She's walking well behind Junior. He's walking in front, holding 2 fingers to his temple to speed up brain activity, to improve, right? His reception. He's walking and Fernanda is behind filming, right?
That's it. So he kept getting closer, right, until there was a moment when, Bilu asked him to stay there. He positions me too, right, in the spot where I was supposed to stay. And then it starts. They start the conversation, right? They talk, it's about several topics. They keep talking and talking. And then we start to notice, right, that Bilu starts to change his form. He gets bigger, he becomes clearer, right, both to the camera, right, both to the naked eye and on camera as well.
He even asked Junior to describe what he was seeing of his face.
Exactly. Well, it's like this, it's something that he was right there because he was really close. He took the object from Bilu's hand, so they were really close. I was going crazy there because all I wanted was to get closer to. There was even a moment when he asked us to step back so we could see the object shining.
That's when you turn off the night shot, right? To see the color.
Yes, exactly. So they keep talking. I noticed, we can see it with the naked eye. And on the camera too, the changes in the frequencies, the change in shape. Yeah, I think you had already started, right? You already mentioned to everyone about their ability to transfigure. They have complete control over the state of their own matter, right?
Feche a pedra. Procure ponto escuro junto com a Fernanda e veja se ela reluz.
Vem aqui, Fernanda. Ela pode vir aqui, Bilu?
Pode ir até lá.
Tá bom.
Pode procurar som.
Ah, não, eu quero ir pra aí.
É.
Uma sombra aqui, Fernanda.
Tá, vamos lá.
Tá.
Não sai daí não, hein, Bilu?
Ó.
Ai, peraí, vamos ver.
Tá reluzindo, Bilu.
Peraí, deixa eu desligar o net shot. Ver se eu pego. Ai, tá. Peraí, abre. Nossa,
meu dedo aqui, ó.
Ficou lindo. Consegui sim, ela tá meio... Nossa, ela tá lilás. Não é isso? Exatamente. Peraí, Júnior, que eu tô só arrumando foco aqui. Ah, não dá.
Ainda ficou luz dourada no meu dedo, Bilu.
Ótimo, então você está absorvendo toda a energia vibracional. É uma luz viva.
É isso mesmo.
Agora feche na mão direita.
So they go on doing all this. They use all this technology. And up until the moment when Junior picks up the object in his hand, then he starts describing the colors, describing everything. And he asks us to go to a slightly more secluded spot so I can also see the color of this stone.
When did you see this stone?
I saw it. No, with the naked eye, it was completely a lilac violet color, right? And it seemed like the light, actually, it's not a static light. It's a light that moves along that.
It keeps moving.
It moves, it's a living light, right? That's there. And then that was the moment, right, when I turned it off too. The night shot, to be able to capture it, picks up a little. Then when I turn it on again, I still try to focus a bit, but I can't focus anymore. And then later we use the infrared again, and then they keep on talking. But it's really interesting because we already knew at that time there was already this manipulation of some artifacts. And we were already being trained precisely for the technologies that we're going to find today, Felipe, in Ratanabá.
Exactly.
So our training with the technologies of Ratanabá has been going on for many years. We've been getting trained for many years now, and some of these technologies we already have.
Did you get to touch the little stone? No, only he could, right? Because he had to absorb that frequency that was, let's say, charged into that little stone, which was A. It looked like metal, didn't it? It was made of metal.
It was metal, it was a really golden metal, you know? Then when we turned on the flashlight to see, it was a golden stone, right? It was a golden little stone, but like when he turned off the light and handled it, it would become completely illuminated.
Exactly because the work was directed at him.
Exactly. Before some people experienced this phenomenon, we even talked about the glowing stones. So this technology, these glowing stones, several people here had the chance to hold these objects. The objects would light up, and some even had a very specific sound vibration. When someone picked them up, they would make some noises.
Exactly.
Frequencies were specific. We have this technology put to good use.
That's true, they're artifacts.
They're artifacts.
Did you also film that occasion with the one that rattles?
I did. I filmed that occasion, and it was amazing because there were other transfigurations and materializations he did there. Just incredible. Really, it's a whole range. Such a huge variety of things happening, right? Of everything they use to mess with our heads too. So we can all see, I think it's interesting to mention, right, Felipe? All of us went through a kind of training. We didn't just get here, look around and say, oh, wow, no. We went through training and they did.
And it burns. It's really hard.
And they made a point of like proving it to us, you know? Like a human being would do this, right? No one can do something like that. So they always made a point of doing these demonstrations so we could really see what was happening there. And it's truly interesting because Junior explicitly states, right? Oh, I was deeply engaged in a conversation with a...
Do this cleansing. In fact, Bilu himself, once during a conversation, he said, we can't understand why you humans, let's say, portray us in movies as if we were monsters. We are human beings just like you.
Exactly.
They get really upset.
Yeah, that's just how it is, right? It's really about keeping us away from that reality so that, like, we look at it and say, We'll never be able to be like that, right? Or do those things. Yeah, also to have that kind of technology and to be able to handle it. But it's actually the opposite, right, Felipe? We are fully capable of doing what they do. We've been learning over the years to do all of that, right? Here, we managed to get closer to them and see that their reality is much more like ours, our everyday life, than we think.
Exactly. And this effort, right? From world leaders through different tentacles, like Hollywood is.
Yes.
A tentacle of propaganda, of brainwashing. That video filmed by Fernanda, where Junior holds Bila's hand, right? The little stone, the Bila behind that, it was a...
It was a bush.
He was behind the bushes. That same scene was replicated in a Doritos commercial in the United States, which aired during the Super Bowl, the final of the American Football Championship, which is the most important moment.
The audience.
At the absolute peak audience of American television, they released a truly shocking video that was specifically sent to me by a valued member of our New York branch. Look, Felipe, I even made a video analyzing it, breaking everything down.
On the internet, you can find all the information you need about the theory that a reptilian race has infiltrated our society, substituted our leaders, and since Mesopotamia has guided the future of humanity.
If they're good or bad, I don't know.
Yeah, you can find everything on the internet, except the Doritos mystery flavor. Infiltrated our society. Infiltrated our society.
Watch it. It's extremely important because they replicate exactly the image that Fernanda created. But what do? They portray Bilo as if he were a reptilian, a gray with a hood, and he even says the phrase that Bilo always says, I seek, the famous seek knowledge. Seek knowledge. And singing like the beings do here. A lot of beings communicate by singing, right? The way they modulate frequencies is by singing. And they repeated that. Watch it because it's really important, because there are even several subliminal images, right, referring to reptilian beings. All the writing is in Portuguese. It's Brazil. They're talking about us, guys. They made a subliminal ad, because obviously this whole reality we live in here is going to be all over the world soon enough. And these people are already trying to associate the group with what? To negative things, to reptilian beings that are all over the media, right? A lot of people talk about them, but that's not really the situation, is it? So that's really, really interesting. By the way, do you want to say something about this?
Just to talk about it, right? So we can see the impact that this image had worldwide. If this were just a bunch of utter nonsense, if it truly didn't make any logical sense whatsoever, they would absolutely never have gone out of their way to publicly publicize it, just to specifically counter the negative image we had already clearly shown. So their concern was so great that they used, the moment with the biggest audience to put out a negative image and make sure we were left with that negative impression. So that's just one more, nail in the coffin.
And it also means they watched the original, right?
Exactly, that's right.
And that they're following us. They're here monitoring us. In fact, our partners always say, the world is watching you. They're following you. Here in Brazil, it's a big joke. Oh, there's Bilu. Oh, it's Orinder. Oh, whatever. By the way, since you're here, because you also filmed Cristianos behind the scenes. I just remembered that, huh? I just remembered the real crew. The brave one. I'm going to put those clips up too, just to refresh your memory, folks. But I was there too, just not as close. Fernanda was filming behind them, right?
Exactly.
following by Bilu's own advice. Fernanda, film everything they're going to handle. They're going to lie. Right?
Yes. Since the very first time, right, the first TV network that got in touch with us, to come here, to film, to do all the recordings, they already said, you need to have all the behind-the-scenes footage because they're going to manipulate the images, right? So we know that editing, right, is a wonder. So, you edit and you can spin it however you want.
Uh-huh.
So really, we've always filmed everything, and it was the best thing to do. We've always shared the behind-the-scenes, not just from Record, but from other networks too.
Danilo Gentili, who came here too, blatantly lied and created the biggest image ever. No one talks about that, guys. It was the camera from Bandeirantes.
Exactly.
That filmed what? Bilu's teleportation, when he floated off into the woods and poof, teleported. No one talks about that. And Danny Janti, they cut it. They edited it.
Yeah.
But we have an original piece, right? He was like, look over there, look over there. I saw him, the little guy, he left. Look over there. He looked like a child.
Yeah.
Olha lá, eu vi agora, velho.
Acabou, você pegou aí? Você pegou? Você viu que ele apareceu ali? Ele é baixinho, apareceu.
So, and for them, they have some amazing footage and a lot of other things that they, managed to capture with their cameras, and we don't even have those files because they made a point of giving that material to them, so they could really see what all this stuff is capable of.
Tell us what went on behind the scenes. Give us a taste. Bilu, don't come near me. Bilu, I don't want you to touch my hand. Can you believe it?
Yeah, it was actually pretty interesting because when they arrived, they, did all this hype since they're a crew that's already filmed before, right? They've gone out to the borders to film the people from the park. So they came in with this whole attitude like, wow, we're super brave. We can handle anything. Guys, it's not about being brave. First of all, there's this whole thing, about the brainwashing we've all been through. Everyone's scared. Oh, it's an alien. We're scared and all that, And there's also the whole issue of the electromagnetic field that's at play when we're getting close to these beings. So much so that, sometimes they even ask us to sit down because at the same time, we already have a different kind of experience, right, Felipe? We have this urge to get as close as possible.
Of course, we want to get close, hug them, touch them, sit right next to them, which I've actually done. Guys, I've already sat next to E.T. Bilu, okay?
Exactly. And they're already on alert. Some want to get closer and others already feel it because it's an energy field, right? You feel it right there, so you get this sensation. Usually you're going to process that as a feeling you already know, right? A lot of people say things like, oh no, I got goosebumps and all, I got scared, I felt this way, I felt that way. But it's a matter of you having that frequency and getting used to it. So really they had been through days of this, It had already been days. They stayed here for about a week or so. They had several conversations, all kinds of different conversations. They even filmed Yurinder walking next to Bilu, almost in broad daylight already. It was almost morning, and they were walking side by side. That footage, where is that footage, right, folks?
They filmed it.
They filmed that.
And they didn't say anything, huh?
No.
And they kept hinting, oh, it's just Yurinder hiding. A lot of people keep saying, oh, it's just Yurinder hiding.
Yeah.
Actually, we've witnessed that scene, Yurinder together with Bilu, countless times.
Exactly.
That's why we even find it funny, When people say, keep hinting that Bilu is just Yurinder in disguise, that's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. And they were, at the time, what happened? We actually don't have that footage because I had to hand over my camera to them since it had the infrared feature. But then, when the scene happened, we didn't have any camera at all. It wasn't that time yet. We didn't walk around with cell phones everywhere, no. It was a different time. So we didn't have any way to film at that point.
That was in 2010, right?
It was in 2010.
Yeah, 2010. Guys, 13 years ago, seriously.
Yeah, that's right. And so they captured it, right? They have the footage, from their camera, the record camera, which was, that big brick. And we don't have that footage, but they filmed it and it was just amazing. And on the day itself, right, which was the big day, that's when the shell test originated. I think that's a whole other chapter we can talk about later.
Yeah,
But yeah, what they wanted, right? Exactly, Bila's plan was to come out of the woods and stay in the middle of all of us.
that's right.
And there he was going to make the plasma for them because they came and they wanted to film this plasma, right? So Bila was going to make this plasma on himself, right? Yeah, but then during the conversation, the situation, it started to change. He kept trying to get closer and closer. And there came a point when they just couldn't,
They couldn't handle it.
they couldn't handle it. They came and said, no, stay there. We don't want you to come any closer. We don't want you to touch us. And we were there, once again, going crazy watching, saying, my God, right? Look at the opportunity we're having here, that they're having too. We've always said that.
Unique opportunity, right?
Unique.
Unique. From a group of journalists from an important TV channel, TV record, right? Recording face to face.
Cristiano,
Pois não?
Bilu quer caminhar.
Ô Bilu, eu não gostaria de...
É a concha.
Concha.
Ah, concha. Você tá com a concha aí?
Ah, eu tô com a concha. Cadê?
Bilu, eu posso entregar a concha pra Fernanda? Ela entrega pra você depois? Nós não trouxemos a concha, falhamos.
Não. Bilu, ia pegar a concha da tua mão.
Eu não tô com a concha na mão, Bilu.
Uma pena.
Oi?
Uma pena.
Pode ser outra coisa, Bilu?
Não, Bilu, eu queria a concha.
Ô Bilu, eu vou deixar a concha com o Urandir, tudo bem?
Não. Bilu, eu quero da sua mão.
Ele queria pegar na tua mão, da conta.
Da minha mão?
Mas, Bilu, espera, não atrás, não vem.
Isso, por favor.
Bilu, quer ficar no campo limpo com você.
Aqui no livro.
Ah, Bilu,
Isso. Agora consegue ver, Bilu?
deixa eu ver.
Joga uma luz pra ele ver onde tu tá.
Não.
Ah, agora eu peguei, Bilu.
Tá me pegando.
Agora estou vendo.
Relaxa os seus ombros, seu corpo. Cristiano,
Pois não.
na minha expressão, uma mensagem a todos.
Você pode falar. Qual a sua mensagem para a Terra, Bilu?
Apenas que busque conhecimentos.
Posso chegar perto, Bilu?
Mais 2 passos.
1, 2, 3, Bilu.
Bilu está tentando se mostrar totalmente. É só manter a calma.
Bilu, eu posso chegar um pouco mais perto?
5 passos. Bilu quer ficar 2 palmos. Bilu está organizando a energia de vocês para se mostrar totalmente. Cristiano,
Pois não?
pegou o Bilu totalmente.
Só o rosto, Bilu.
Não. Bilu quer ficar 2 metros.
Pode ser 3 metros, Bilu, por favor.
Quando estiver a 2, acende a luz.
Ok. Você fica, por favor, Bilu. Eu quero. Isso, o Paulinho faz, por favor. O Bilu, o Luiz cansou, o Paulinho vai fazer. Bilu, você fica 4 metros de distância, tá? Na nossa frente, por favor.
Preparado para tocar, Bilu. Bilu sairá na estrada.
Oi?
Bilu sairá na estrada.
A gente fica nessa posição ou a gente vai pra estrada?
Bilu, eu não quero que você toque em mim, nem no Paulo, nem no Luiz, por favor. E eu quero que você fique a 4 metros de distância da gente, porque nós somos novos, a gente não tem experiência ainda nesse projeto, né? Você entende?
So, guys, you saw the tough guy there. The record reporter, Cristiano, right? face to face with E.T. Bilu, right? Then he got scared. He had a unique chance to get a scoop, didn't he? Because Bilu wanted to go out into the open field, like he said. So, that was the first part, folks. Stay tuned for the second part. In the next few days, I'll be releasing that second part. This video is really cool, okay? So stay tuned. A big hug to everyone.